I tried to riot, but nobody wanted to.
I want to know where Amy put those photographs of all those police officers, you and me in the jail. Have those been circulating in the department?
No, nothing.
Nothing about it, right? And you in your report today?
The right amount of money. Council study session, March 6, 2023. We will begin with the fire department annual report with Chief Chia.
Pretty good at that. Just ask our guys. Mayor, council. I think we'll talk a little bit about we've done this. I've got him distracted. I'm working on Mike. Imagine.
Oh.
It has color in it. It's pitch black. All right, there we go.
It was March. That was great.
There you go. So as we look at this, it's 22. And the significant differences that you see is on the rescue and emergency, which is the medical responses. It dropped because last year we had 84%. But the reason it dropped is because we had so many runs. There was such an increase in overall runs. We did have an increase also in fires. We jumped from 61 and 20, 91 fires, so structure fires in 22. It's quite a significant jump past year. So if we look at that, and again, if you look at the numbers, for again, like I said, EMS, I mean, we're almost 260 runs above 21, but it dropped us down to 74% of the total runs that we had for the year. Whereas if you get into the fires, you look at 91 fires. So that's a lot of fires. Are small. Most of the, you look on Eastern Iowa, and I'm going to compare us to Eastern Iowa. A lot of our sides are even bigger. They're only around structure fire. Is there any way we can, any attribution to that? I mean, what are we attributing that to as far as why we're seeing more than maybe normal? I think, well, it's a number of things. First of all, on EMS calls. Yeah. I mean, that's going to continue. Right. No matter what. For the population and then you'll see, because I've got another slide in here later on, that just some of the changes coming out of a thing called COVID. And everybody now is going outside a lot more. And don't have any of the restrictions that were involved in 2021.
The fire portion of it is
Well, but that's still too limiting some of the activities that we have. So it will have an effect.
I see what
People
you're
weren't
saying.
doing anything because they weren't going anywhere. Wait, that thing. So on this one here, if you look at this, those are our transports. So if you look at that, or I should say the lower part of that graph, is total transports. And it has the number of apparatus transports. That's what we transport. That the second number to the next column to the right says number of patients transported. See, that's a different number. We were obviously calling in outside agencies to make those other transports, but we couldn't make. For whatever way of the rate. We're looking at multiple runs, or we were avoiding for some reason.
Those numbers of shared service calls, do those tally up into our total calls of the 2,800?
As far as which ones, 1361.
Yeah, the 1461 says
So we responded with an apparatus. Yes, it was. We did not know the one. Yeah, if we just did not make that run because everybody was out, it's not counted.
And just a question for my own ignorance here. Every time you have a fire though, there's an ambulance that goes out with that. Is that right? A unit? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I thought.
Like a medic unit.
Yeah.
So when our report is completed, they're logged in as a medic unit, but they're supporting the fire purpose.
I have another question because I noticed you've been having a life flight down the last few times since I lived fairly close to that. Do you have to go there every time that comes in, even though maybe from another county or city that comes from? Does somebody from our department have to go there every time on that to that field?
It's usually, if that occurs, it's usually police department.
Okay. Okay.
If they're landing and we're there, it's because we call.
Okay. Okay.
But even if they're called,
Right.
we usually go ahead of time to make sure everything's clear.
Right.
Believe it or not, you have people that park there and sit there sometimes.
Nice.
On the scanners and want to meet it there and watch.
Everybody likes to see it. So as you look at this page here. So you look at 8 given, which was, pretty close to 21. We had 24 responses, or we gave aid 21. This is 21. That given last year. Aid received though, we jumped dramatically. That was from just the number of calls that actually came in. 119 were in 21, I think we were talking about 60. Just want to make sure too.
Most of those are EMS.
Yeah, I would say probably 90% of them. Yeah.
Do those mutual aid calls affect our response times?
I mean, if we respond with an apparatus, yes, it does.
But not if.
If they would layer.
Calling.
Yeah, because it doesn't take an into counting for that.
Is there any way to track that time for when we're having to call out for the mutual aid? To compare it to what our time responsive?
That's part of Rigorous management.
So essentially, if I'm reading this or looking at this correctly, that you've had to ask other departments or other groups to come to our aid 119 times.
19, yes. Yep.
So you're headed that direction.
No, but it's a good question because it means you're reading this. Yeah. You have to remember, all right, we jumped
Right from
60
60
fires, right? So we normally ask at least 2 other agencies when we're responding to fires to come.
Okay.
Usually it's 3 if it's in a rural area.
Was that just because of lack of?
Water, yeah.
Or using their water tenders. Like a wet water through.
Hmm.
I mean, we run 2, that's 2 water tenders. That's not enough if we've got a residential structure.
Do you know how many water tenders typically we would have for an area as large as we are? I mean, we service a very large area.
Um,
Know what that is?
I don't. You know, I don't think there's a number that you can put on. You try to get as much water as you can, you know, on the first route. We can take over 5,000 gallons right off the bat. Between our engine and the 2 water tenders, we run about 5,200 gallons.
How quickly can you?
In about 9 minutes. Yeah. So we can do a quick knockdown.
Right.
And then wait for support from mutual aid. It's a key component to it. It is.
Are there, when we do have to go out into the rural areas, fire district, are there rural hydrants for us to tap into?
There are, but there are very few. There's probably total, I think, of 8 county.
Do they have enough pressure then? That's the other question.
Yeah. So it takes about, to fill a 2,000 gallon water tender, it'll take probably 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, where I was headed with my question, Chief, is departmentally then, do you feel like we're adequate, or is that something that we really need to be looking at CIP in the near future as far as equipment, staff, those kinds of things? I guess that's a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna be,
You think your equipment's okay, then you can use.
we're getting there.
Okay. Okay.
It's, we've gone through a lot of changes. It's 15. We're getting there.
That's more for the rural fires that we need that, or
Mhm.
Overall,
there's no way to get more money from the district than what? Isn't that set by the
yeah,
state?
that's set by the state.
And we're capped out on that township.
Iowa code does that. And it's 60 and 2/3. Right. 60 and 0.75 per thousand.
How often does that get adjusted?
I've yet to see it be adjusted in
Okay.
20.
I'm gonna say, I think. Question, John, I think when I was in the legislature in 2000, we might have adjusted it. I think it went from like 50 something to 60s, maybe 48. And it was kind of a very controversial thing, obviously, but but for our, I mean, that doesn't cover the cost at all for it.
We have more rural residences than most counties
Yes.
would too.
Yeah, it's getting larger, yeah.
Larger all the time.
And we have. And if you. I'll bring it up. 16.
Why not?
The difference between, you know, somebody in the city
Yes.
that pays 1,000. As a rule. There is no comparison. Right. And it's unfortunate because they're getting the same people with same qualifications, same equipment. Right. Right.
Do you know how many of the 119 we are completely depleted of all sources?
Well, if you look down below that where it says overlapping, we were completely depleted in that percentage.
I know 31% of the time, 32.
And that jumped. So you look at, there was 926 responses that made up that 31.96%. Where the year before, it jumped from 708 responses and 27% of overlapping. That's quite a number.
Well, how long does a call take? So, I mean, if you do the math, you're looking at like 8 calls a day, every day for the entire year. the average call take.
Okay, there we go.
Great segue, right? Chip and I worked on that earlier.
Yeah. General.
All right. Thank you. Well, what we have improved on is you look at that EMS response time. That's for us, our turnout time, getting out the door. I'd like to get it, I mean, we've got room to improve. I'd like to get it around 90 seconds. That comes with staff, but that fire one has really changed, and that's good. That's a good time. You have to think about their dressing and getting in their rig and they're out the door.
Possibly running across the street.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is
Elimination.
taken into consideration with these numbers.
Do you have a differential in the average time in city versus out of city?
I don't with me, but I can get it. One of the other ones, I'm going to go back here. You look at the bottom row. That's the response time from dispatch to arrival on scene. That's a key component. At 6:54 is, I think we're about 8 seconds higher than last year. But a little bit of that might be because we were maybe responding with one person, where the other units were out. The fire side, those drop. Now the standard is 4 minutes EMS and 8 minutes for fire. We're getting there. It used to be 18 minutes for fire and 12 minutes for EMS when I got here 15. I can't take credit for that. That's the people over here that have changed that. They're working in the fire station every day. Looking at this, so there's a few things. This is the totals, the last 10 years. You'll see we had a trend here from 12, 13, 14, 15, still increasing, and then 16 we had anomaly, weird. So I went back and looked at it. Well, what we were doing was we weren't capturing everything we were responding on. Special events weren't even logged. They were attending. They were doing work that they weren't taking credit for. Then in 17, you see how low that is. Well, what we ended up doing in 17, excuse me, we switched to a new records management software. That's about a 10 to 11 month transition. I don't know. I don't think we were capturing everything in that year either. But then we started to jump back up again. And of course, in 20, again, that COVID thing. But last year is, 7% increase. That's a big jump.
So if they weren't capturing everything in 15, is there a possibility they weren't capturing everything in 15, 13, and 12 then as well?
I'm sure that
Those numbers probably aren't valid as they are after 17, yeah.
that's a
It's probably a good guess we've been running 2,000 or more, up to 2,100 or more for years probably. No,
and they're busy. But you have to remember too, that we were running 6 full-timers from 98 to 2017.
Yeah.
And hired anybody or increased the department in
Right.
2017.
no doubt about that.
We used to have a volunteer fire program too.
There was, yeah, at one time they went through a transition. They had volunteers. They had paid on call. They had part-time. And they had full-time. All at one time. It's- Training issue is big there. And I'll bring it up. Involvement is involved actually in that training. So that was our org chart last in 22. Pretty flat. in That. And it's not, that many people going into one person. It actually is unmanageable. The avenues, of communication make it difficult. Training issues are really difficult with that. But we've already implemented a couple of things in January, and we'll look at the next structure. Right side, we've implemented. Division captains. That has been so helpful. Just the communication, but also the avenues and how we can help and get things organized. With public education. The left side, what you've already seen West on.
On the fire captains, do they work with the same 4 people all the time then?
Yes.
It's a real team then, is what it is, yeah. Good,
Now the 2 part-timers are the ones that
rotate. But you got your main 4 that.
and future. Looking at 26, so you see those requests coming. It's built off of that structure that makes it more manageable. Provides for internal growth and promotion. Members.
These people here,
That's
opportunities, yep.
We're investing in. Going to the report, hopefully you saw the report that I sent with this letters. And I'm sure you share bring this up. I understand that between his department and our department, we're responding to 46% of the total calls in this county. I think the total was over 36,000. It's quite a service we're providing.
Entire county, right? That's
the entire
46% of the entire county.
On our training, and this is where it comes back to your question. We completed it with all those runs, and the increase that we've had and everything. Our department still had time to complete 5,040 hours of training just last year in 20. That's the third year that we've been over 5,000 hours of training.
How does that work? Is that on site? Does that go other places, or how do you do your training?
All of them. We send people out. So Just to give you an idea of, somebody that's hired new. Well, they're required to not only go, if they're not certified as a paramedic, they'll take paramedic curriculum. It's 3 semesters. If they're not, well, most of them are not hazmat technician level, we send them to Pueblo, Colorado for 2 weeks. That's on the federal side. They pay for all of it. It's excellent training. The facility that's there, why not use it? Last year, we received a new medic unit. Currently receive those every 3 years. So the number of miles we put on them, use. By the time the 3 years, I shouldn't say that, 8 years, but it's on a 3-year rotation. And they're worn out by the time we get rid of them.
We always keep a fourth. Do we always have a
We
fourth?
have 4, yeah.
A fourth, okay.
And fortunately, I think we'll probably end up having, if we keep increasing our numbers like we are. I mean, there's no way we could meet the requirements to that service without it. We replaced our monitors that were years old. But yeah, it's something that was drastically needed. It was an expensive item to get them, but they do a lot of things. People like it, they're easy to use. The next thing is I'm going to go through some of the grants that we've are in the process of submitting for, and some of them we already have. The big one is, and I'll talk about it right now, is the SAFER grant. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So the SAFER grant is for staff. It's going to need mayor's permission if we are awarded. I would like to pursue that, okay, with council and mayor for 3 more full-time staff. The way that it's written for this coming year is 3 years, 100% paid. That's changed. Used to be graduated for each employee, but it's 100%. The AFG is the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, put in for a replacement for one of the engines. By the time we replace that engine, it's going to be 25 years old. The maintenance on those things is just budget. Normal life is 15 years.
That'd be our oldest, that's our oldest apparatus at that point, isn't it?
Oldest is still here.
Oh, it is, okay.
It's the one that we've already put out, replaced last August.
Oh, okay.
That one, by the time he gets here, it'll probably be 12, just under 27.
If we replace, once we replace that engine though, then we're more current.
Yes, then we're current.
Okay.
We end up going back.
Right.
It's like the AFG, and that one's going to be, we put in for 675,000. We can do is hope that people award us that.
Are those all or nothing?
No, the AFG is a 10% match. The SAFER grant is 100%.
What I mean is it, they won't give you part of what you're
No.
asking for. It's an all or not. They'll either give it to you or they're not.
You can try and coax them by saying that, and we have done that the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They will, we'll split it and put 475 down will be the rest.
Okay, curious.
try to manipulate it. Prairie Meadows, trying to replace some extrication equipment. The Warren County Philanthropic, put in for a new rescue boat and motor. We use that. The one we currently have is 30-some years old. And then we just received 2,000 from Walmart for a piece of equipment to go on one of the medical units. It was a $2,000 grant. And we've also put in for Firehouse Subs has a grant. It's $5,000.
I say for Grant, they don't, because we've gotten one recently, they don't, basically everybody's got the same opportunities.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And we made it to the final cut last year.
In your letter in here, you mentioned about recruitment. And you obviously have taken all kinds of steps to increase the applicant pool. Do you have any concerns, or what are you seeing currently in recruiting? I know everybody's having challenges, but
Yeah.
you've taken a lot of steps to.
I think that, you know what, I think that's going to continue probably for the next 2 or 3 years. That not only being competitive, but that pool is dwindled. And of course, you know, I'm not blaming them. I came from Boeing. It took almost 100 last 18 months out of the metro area. 5 classes they hired. But it's not just them. Altoona just put out, they're hiring full-time. I think we're in with that, and I don't know if you know that we belong to a consortium.
I was just ask about that. Yeah, what is that?
So prior to us going to the consortium, we had to do everything in-house. We had to test them both through physical agility, test them on their writing skills. It was basically a physical or a mental capacity type written test. That's all done now through DMAC and the consortium. So it's put back on the applicant. So there's 9 departments in this consortium. So when they pass this and they pass the physical agility, those applicants can go on any one of those departments. They're available to be hired by any of those departments that belong to that consortium.
Is there enrollment pretty strong? Do you have a good pool?
They had until they were probably getting 30 to 40 every spring.
Yeah, I used to talk to a lot of.
And then now everything's starting to rebound. I think it's just going to be time. We'll come back to what I think we've seen prior to 20. Questions for me?
If, do you have information on businesses that have AEDs or anything along that line? I guess I was obviously recently in CPR training and AEDs were part of that. And I'm just kind of curious. And your thoughts on that as well.
I do not. Iowa Heart is huge.
Oh, they're huge, yeah.
And we get calls all the time about AEDs and how they can get them. And we always turn them over to filling out the application for Iowa Heart. I know the churches have gotten them. The Catholic Church has, the church has. Some of the private businesses. They promote that
Yeah. I was just kind of curious. I mean, a lot of times somebody does go down and business that doesn't have one, it'd be kind of, if there's any way to put on the share or anything along that. Interesting question, I guess, from, I thought of the process of you're somewhere and somebody needs an AED.
What we offer as far as public education, we offer CPR. Not only to everybody in the city.
Okay.
But also to privates, businesses. Stop the bleed. We've gotten in with the school district on that, and we do quite, in fact, we just did one not even a month ago, at the school district. ACLS, which is Advanced Cardiac Life Support. We have instructors in the department for all of those. PALS, which is Pediatric Advanced Life Support. We have instructors for that. We'll be starting probably in this late spring, early summer will be the commercial. Stop in 19 again. We'll start sending information out to all the business people. And that's usually an 18 to 19-month cycle. Go through and just do a walkthrough and inspection. On the businesses here in town.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the information. All right, we'll move on to the Police Department Annual Report with Chief Shear.
I was confident till that. That was pretty good, Greg. Volume up.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Volume up.
We'll play.
You have a video? Oh,
Hi, Mayor, Council.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
video.
Andy's not here. I really wish he was.
He's watching, he's upstairs.
Oh, good. Keep an eye, Andy. Steve.
Okay.
No. I got jokes.
I've seen that episode about 20 times. I could probably mouth what You're not far off
Switch
there.
ties with John and I need some more
Big
color.
Bang Theory.
Oh,
Ruin it for the rest.
I'm sorry.
You totally pull this off.
Anyway, it says, like a milking stool. It's on 3 legs. Need help up here, Greg?
Sucking up the council now.
Yeah.
Moving on. So employee highlights. The first one's my favorite. I promoted it. Lieutenant Rob Hawkins got promoted to captain. Officer John Schumacher was sworn in after his ILEA graduation. Officer Isaiah Strong resigned. Clerical Michelle Snyder went from part-time to full-time. Clerical Nicole Comrie was hired, and the following officers were Part 107 drone pilot certified. So the good news is some movement. Great news is person leaves. That's wonderful. We're not gonna have volume for my next videos either, huh? You know, you've seen them. So body cameras. June 1st, 2022, we implemented the body cameras. Everything was done on them. Everything's working great on them. But I want you to just notice those points. Document and verify seizures and evidence collection. Promote and provide vital officer safety support. The next video, our body camera. There's an officer getting hit. Be really great if we had. I can tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, domestic situation, officers come in and as an officer is walking out of the apartment, gets struck in the face by a fist. Okay, so a couple things I want you to take away from that. That tells the story way better than a written report. I mean, we can press play in court.
Yeah.
As you can see right there in that scene right there, the officers are effecting an arrest. That's what they're doing. No knees on their head. There's no extra punches being thrown. There's no punches being thrown at all. It's hands behind your back. Get them handcuffed. Fire department gets called, takes care of the mace. That's how we do business. So it was the amount of force necessary, and I could play video after video after video of what goes on, and it's all the same. Maybe I do have one more. I'm not liking this.
And real quick while you're doing that,
Yeah.
and I will add that having sound is very, very important. We went through a situation years ago where we had a use of force situation where we got threatened to be sued. And had we had volume to show, we would have not had to settle. And so having sound is very, very important.
We have it for just, it's the system here. We're good. So body cameras, they do more than just record things. They do more than just take pictures. This is a map of every time the body camera has been activated since June 1st. And you can see, obviously, there's a big cross there. That's highway traffic stops. There's a lot of things we can do with this. By using this map and other maps in the program, we can see if there are locations where the city's lacking. Converse is also true. We can see where officers have to spend time and where we can direct patrol to dangerous areas or areas where we get called upon. These maps are very vital. Again, we can even go down to time of day. As you can see, at 4 o'clock in the morning, not activating our body camera a lot. But throughout most of the day up until about 2 a.m., are activating our body camera. So we can direct our patrol officers for activities based on how busy it is, the time of day, and where those body cameras are being activated at throughout the city. Well, this next one's gonna go over like a lead balloon too, so. So this is an arrest of a theft suspect, again, body camera. Couple other features that are shown here. There's a lot of F-bombs going on, but they're bleeped out. Also, the face is bleeped out. This person is clearly not wanting to go along with the program. It's a pretty common conversation right now. I don't know who's got who there. It doesn't look good.
Let's say we've got some hand control. Generally go for the hands rather than the wrists.
Trying to go for the wrist, but as long as you can see the hands, you're good.
It seemed like he's grabbing his hand.
Okay.
and Get his wrist control.
We have one officer or two officers?
One officer there. Yeah, he's not punching him, he's not kicking him, he's still talking to him, trying to get him calmed down, trying to get him. And then he takes a step back. Clearly that wasn't working.
Oh, grab your belt.
And he gets maced. And that puts an end to that. But again, go ahead, Judd.
A situation like that is drug use, or is it just somebody being just?
Just belligerent.
Gotcha.
Doesn't want to go along with the program. Again, the takeaway from this video, officer was calm. It was an uncooperative individual. He wasn't fighting back, he was just uncooperative. We use the ask, tell, make system for affecting an arrest. And that person didn't want to be asked or told, so we made him. Again, subject was compliant after that. Body camera's still running. I just got the video. The handcuffs. Fire department's called again. I think half of your runs are per month.
Well, was he maced because he was grabbing around his waist?
He was maced because there was no other way. He was not gonna go into handcuffs voluntarily. And he wasn't fighting back, but he was resisting. wasn't punching, kicking. He just did not want to be grabbed, did not want to be told what to.
The next step was going to be
Yeah.
punching, kicking.
Next step, yeah, I mean, he could have
Escalated.
escalated. Taser there.
Yeah.
He made the right choice and Billy went, and that was just for theft. Minor theft. So the takeaway from the body cameras is I want to thank you guys for funding that. It makes our jobs easier. It really does. It's so transparent. Complaints have been almost non-existent. And the ones we have had, press play. It's that simple.
I know you told us when we were going through those conversations, but how many hours of footage do you guys keep on your servers?
Okay, so it's not on our server, it's on a cloud, right? It doesn't really go through ours, it's stored offsite. And we have different retention set for different events. Like an OWI is like 2 years. There's a resisting arrest, it's like 5 years. If it's just like a normal traffic stop, like 60 or 90 days. I'd have to look, I have a whole list.
Those are best practices. that
Yes, yeah,
works.
yeah, we didn't invent that, we stole that. So, yeah, we keep them as long as we feel necessary, and then it just frees up space. I couldn't tell how many hours and hours we have. Actually, I could. It's in the report, in the full length report. I know how many hours. Drone program, real quick. I know we're. Drone program's implemented. To date, 6 officers have become certified pilots. Since the inception of the program, we have flown 16 actual missions up until January 1st. I do have a quick video. We put the drone up, I think 200 feet straight up at City Hall here. I just wanted to show you guys the capabilities.
So do you have, does that help with scheduling, I'm assuming, but do you have to then always make sure that each shift, there's got to be somebody on that is a pilot, or do you just deal with
It
it?
doesn't work.
You just deal with it.
Yeah. Get called out. So what we did was we went straight up in the air. We're gonna look over toward the high school. I just wanted to show you guys the capability.
So the drone's not flying east. This is just a zoom in from the camera.
Just flying straight up.
Good coverage. I can see my son's house.
Still shot of this.
Mhm.
Great.
He didn't go all the way in, but he shortcut. So you can identify people easily.
Is that a mile?
Wow. And it's pretty darn clear. It's just one of the many things.
So most of those missions, were they looking for somebody, or was it some other requirement?
All sorts of things, from a mentally deranged person with a knife. What they use the drone for was to take that person's focus off of the officers onto the drone,
I got you.
and all sorts of things. Yeah, missing people.
Well, I guess where I was heading with this was, will the dog obviously be used in conjunction with this, but will it take some of the pressure off of having to use a drone in those cases, or it's just going to be a supplemental tool?
It'll be a supplemental. If we can see ahead of where the dog's going.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Gotcha.
Statistics. I can stand up here and twist statistics however I need to twist. I can do that. Because I believe there's some truth in the yellow highlighted. I'm gonna go up there, I'm sorry. So calls for service up 3.2%. We had over 13,000 calls first time. Citations and warnings went up 29.7%. Okay, so that one's right here. But accidents went down 60%, property damage accidents. I believe there's a correlation there. Like I said, you can twist statistics how you want, but we're stopping more cars. We're stopping the cars that are driving recklessly, driving violations that could cause accidents. And I believe because we're stopping those cars, we're having less accidents. Burglaries are down 68.6%. Criminal mischief was down 26.3%. Okay. The correlation I'm going to make between that is we have more officers on the road than we've ever had before. You see more officers around town. It helps stop crime. Five and four schedule definitely helps because we have way more overlap, more officers on the road. And the more we're seeing, less likely people are to commit crimes. That's just a fact. Training. I know Councilmember Parker and I have talked about training before. We don't count training like them, so don't think we're behind in training. We do different things than we do. But we had 15,000 or 1,581 hours of training this year. Can I make that? 309 more hours than we did in 2021. And that number is gonna continue to rise with more officers. We're doing more things, different programs. I might as well just stay up there. Yes, please. So community, this is all laid out in your packet. I just want to hit some of the highlights. You know, we try and do something every month if we can. If you haven't seen April 14th, taking on the grandmas in basketball, the makers versus the peacemakers. It's gonna be a fun event. It's 69. But these are all things we did throughout the year. Plus, I didn't want to bore you with reading slides, but you know, we're at everything we can possibly be at. Hit the next one. Internal recognition. So we now recognize our officers internally at our spring training and our fall training. It's something we've never done before. So this is some of the officers we recognized this year, saving a life by administering CPR, and we actually had the person who did CPR come to this recognition. Assisting persons experiencing mental health crisis, clerical staff achieving 100% on an audit score, and drone pilot aided in safely disarming an armed subject. Just some of the things that we've internally recognized our officers. Next, please. Okay, so 2023 is upon us. So here's what's on our radar. Lieutenants and sergeants, that's been done. So we'll talk about that. I need something to talk about next year. K9, our K9 is at training right now, and today was his first day. DARE officer, we're trying to re-implement the DARE program. We have Ross Marshall going to the DARE school coming up in April, and the school is still trying to work out the logistics of it. So we don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. We're sending someone. Cost is very minimal to us. Wonderful. We're trying to get back to where we were. We used to do DARE here, and we have a K9. Okay, we have the enforcement portion of it. We need the education. I mean, I know it's law enforcement, but we can educate the kids in 5th grade not to end up in front of the dog. Metro Star team. Now that we've done with all our promotions, we are part of the MAC agency, and we do have access to all of the benefits of the Star team. We just don't have a member there yet. We're going to choose one in the next couple of weeks. Drug recognition expert, that's on our radar. We used to have one 15 years ago, and that helps with OWIs, drug WIs, and different things like that. People who are on drugs, they're experts to recognize what type of drug they're on. Oh, peacemakers, community engagement, we're going to continue with that. From task force, that is in the works with the Warren County Sheriff's Office and the County Attorney's Office. And we are starting up task force again, like we used to have back in the day, John, you know about that.
Will that be just the two agencies, or will Norwalk and Carlisle be part of that?
We're starting out small. The county attorney has some ARPA money that he's throwing towards us to get back to where we were with our drug enforcement in the whole county. So we're starting there and build from there. And yes, I mean, we've talked to Chief Staples, Chief Coe, and they know what we're doing. And we have more personnel we can dedicate, right? It is now where they don't right now. So we'll see what happens there. That's kind of a play it by ear.
Drug task force was very effective in the past.
Sure was. Grant opportunities, we're putting in a grant for a new polygraph examiner. The old one is wore out and has other duties. So we put in a grant for that through Prairie Meadows. That's for them. And then peer support, something that's very important. You know, we just had a homicide suicide here in town, and after calling the DCI to come down and help investigate, my next call was to the peer group. Hey, the people that were in here need checked in on this afternoon. Super important. Mental health is, especially in this job. So my conclusion is, with everything else that I have highlighted, the most important impressive highlight is the employees. It really is. They make this. From the captain to the newest clerical member, I'm proud of the work that gets accomplished every day. I really am. And anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. We made the presentation about the canine, adding the canine unit. She talked about the fentanyl traffic on 65, 69. Have you seen increases, decreases? Are you managing that? Talk a little bit about that.
It's been steady. There hasn't been any spikes or we haven't had any major seizures yet. But we know it's going. The dog's gonna be a wonderful.
Can't wait.
I've got a question for you. So I'm huge on the domestic violence awareness. And I noticed the number of calls went down between years, but it's going back up again. We don't really have a domestic violence program through Indianola that works with PD other than the peer support. Correct?
We do have other resources that we use. So the county attorney's office, are you talking about pre-domestic violence or post-domestic violence? So post-domestic violence, the county attorney's office has a victim's advocate, and we work very closely with her. Her name's Sunday Smith, and she is a wonderful advocate for victims. All the domestic reports go to her. So yes, we also have Officer Williams as part of a group that just got trained this week, Simpson College, for domestic violence. College awareness. So that would be pre with the awareness and the schooling and the awareness of it all.
And I'm just curious, I'm sure you have no idea off the top of your head, the old numbers and stuff, but so 185 calls came in last year. On average, about 48% of domestic abuse calls never even get reported. I mean, the victim does not make the call. So is there something that we as a city or through our police department or even our fire department could look into offering more, say it, not so much awareness, but an outreach where, like Des Moines, you've got Children and Families of Iowa that does a lot of stuff where, if you're not safe, they have resources on their website where you can click to get information, but they have like an emergency exit. You can leave that site and it looks like you're just looking at some random. Is there something we could implement?
Yeah, I don't see why not. There is a lot of stuff we do that I don't want to publicly speak about. It's to rest your concerns. It's not being ignored. But you are correct. It's an underreported crime. I think, and not to conclude this, but I think it's always going to be an underreported.
I agree. I mean, it always will.
No matter how much outreach, no matter how much empathy and sympathy, some people just aren't going to call.
Thank you.
It is 7 PM, so thank you, Chief. Here. We want to take like a 2-minute break. If anyone has to run to the restroom, we will come back for those watching online. 7:05. two 2023 City of Indianola Council meeting. We would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Cooley. Here. Parker.
Present.
Selby.
Here.
Schroeder.
Present.
Peach.
Here.
Richardson.
Present.
Mayor Erickson.
Present. Move on to public comment. If you are here and address for the record. So the consent agenda, are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda?
Right. B.
Okay,
Claims.
anything else?
I was gonna pull D1 and 2, but I'll just have, when Ben does his,
Right.
Okay, can I get a first and second motion to approve?
So move.
Consent, thank you. Any discussion? I guess you'd like some clarification on a couple items, D and 2.
Okay, we just appreciate Councilman Richardson bringing this up and wanted to answer any questions that council might have on this, but just in general, this is a sidewalk that is a 3-part sidewalk. Where there's responsibility for the city, there's responsibility for executive car wash and responsibility of other commercial ownership there. And to make it easier for the entire project to move forward. Instead of us all paying incrementally, we are all taking a section. And our part is 1/3. The first portion will be coming in the May to early June timeframe. That is the executive car wash portion. And that's the last portion of their construction. For elevation purposes and whatnot, the next section will be going in the July-August timeframe. That's by the other business owners out in that area, and the city's portion will be completed by September. Continue that whole sidewalk through the entire commercial.
That's all the way to Casey's then, right? I think Casey's where the sidewalk currently is.
Yeah, it goes all the way around and down through the Hillcrest area.
Thank you.
You know, it's really interesting because I saw someone today in that exact spot getting off their bike where the sidewalk ended, and I was like, that's really unfortunate, but then I remembered this, so.
If there's one thing I could add to that too, this was one where a subdivision was approved and it didn't have the requirements in there, so I really appreciate Charlie negotiating and working in good faith with the business owners out there, so it's a benefit to the business owners, the patrons, and the city, and negotiated a really good deal on all sides, so.
I would agree with that because when I first came on council, it was in there, then all of a sudden it wasn't in there. So, and when we redid the highway out there, I think is when previous 2 city managers ago somehow got that taken out for whatever, but yeah, because there was in the initial plans, when we first came on, it was there and then it wasn't, and I balked because they said, well, we don't want people riding on the highway anyway. So I'm glad this is getting taken care of. So thank you, Charlie.
To that point for just a second, though, at one time we had a policy that there's no curb and gutter. I think that's maybe why they took it out. But maybe that's something we want to make sure that we either revisit if we do have or don't have, we need to make some changes so that there are things that we want to continue with those kinds of recreational opportunities. So
I think we have a great professional staff and you're seeing to our subdivision
Exactly.
code all the way
Exactly.
through. That really takes that.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question on D2. Reading through there, you talked about just having one sidewalk. If I remember right, at the initial conversations, sidewalk, or I was a one sidewalk guy, and then you guys talked me into the 2 sidewalks, but reading through here, it sounds like there's only one sidewalk now.
Well, this is actually, as far as this agenda is concerned, this is actually setting the public hearing, and we probably get into that a little bit more in the future when we actually have the public hearing, but do you want to answer that quick?
Yeah, I can really quick, the project would include one sidewalk because the other north side already has the trail in place.
Okay.
So one's already in place, the other one's going to be.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments on the consent agenda? Right, Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewland,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Right, I need a first and second motion on item B, approval of claims.
Second.
You. And any questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Hewland. Parker,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
Right, we'll move into the council reports. And once I get the motions, I'll give you an update on this too as well. But I need a first and second motion on the appointment of Leslie Held to the Downtown Square Commission to fill a vacancy for the term ending June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Leslie applied because Erica Roberts, who is currently on the commission, was appointed to become the president of the downtown merchants. And she felt like it may be a conflict of interest. So she asked if she could resign. And then Leslie was recommended as a good alternate to add on to that. So I felt that was great for Erica to recognize that maybe that'd be a conflict, especially now that they're asking the city for money. So that is why we have that vacancy. Becky?
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewland,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder. Aye.
Right, welcome aboard, Leslie. Moving on to item B is discussion and direction on representation at upcoming conferences. We have a couple of those, the Des Moines Partnership Trip to Washington, DC, which is Wednesday, May 10th through Friday, May 12th. And then we have the Development 2023 Conference, which is Thursday, May 18th from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Des Moines. And then the league's annual conference is in September, which we'll discuss when registration opens. Is there anyone who is interested in start with Washington, DC, May 10th through Friday, May 12th?
Well, if nobody else, I would be
Yeah,
interested.
I think I'd be interested.
All right, so Ron and Steve, anybody wanna arm wrestle them for those? Looks like it's you guys.
And if, yeah, I mean, let me know, because
Yeah.
I wanted other people to have the opportunity, but if somebody can't, I would definitely fill in if need be, so.
Right, perfect.
I say that, I didn't ask my wife, but.
Well, that's how that works. I would fill in.
We have the development 2023 conference on Thursday, March 18th from 7 AM to 4 PM. That's in Des Moines. Charlie, I'm pretty sure you're going right to that.
Saturday, I've got another conference I'm going.
Okay.
I would say that I got a lot out of that last year, if anybody can go. I mean,
I'm happy to go. I'll put myself on there.
Development's a development conference. They have sessions in the morning and afternoon, and they repeat what they have in the morning, they repeat in the afternoon, so you can make different sessions. One of the sessions that I attended was on the workforce development group but it was with United Way of Central Iowa and the Department of Corrections. And that kind of led to that thing we went to on Thursday with reentry of prisoners into society and trying to use those as a workforce and things. And so there's things like that, but there's a lot of other things in the conference as well. And it's all about development, economic development, how you can spur that, how you can make that work. And I think if any of you can go, that'd be great. And I think some staff.
May 17th.
18th.
May or March?
May.
18th.
Yeah, I think it's, you say March.
I thought she said March.
But I mean, Thursday, May 18th from 7 AM to 4 PM.
In April, sorry. Okay, Thursday, May 18th.
And there is a meet and greet the evening before if you want to attend that. Because it was in Iowa City last year, I went.
You need to know by.
I think registration.
Looking at me like I know. When do we need to know by Jackie? Jackie knows everything.
That's all right.
All right, perfect. It's in our email. Got all the county emails right now, so it's buried in there. And then we will, as well as we get closer to the annual conference, discuss that and more, but I will definitely do the May 18th and then.
I'll maybe do May.
Okay,
Good, perfect. Good.
okay, we will.
Mayor, could I?
Actually, Steve's got an update from the League of Cities.
I just want to make sure if you guys haven't seen it, legislative league update from all of the different bills in the state legislature. I think it's Senate Study Bill 1124 is now Senate File 356. Just a number change, and they've made a couple things. I did email Andy, maybe league was asking for cities to do a recap of the amount of money that some of these bills were going to cost, and he was going to do that and send it to the league so they'd have a full list of cities and the actual financial impact on these bills would have. Senate Study Bill 1125 is still out there. That's on the lost. But since it's still a Senate study bill and it deals with taxes, it can be activated anytime during the session. So it's not subject to funnel. But as it's still a study bill, it means they really haven't been moving much on it. So I don't know where that is. It's kind of stuck right at the moment. I know there's also Senate's File 174 is a building code preemption. But Charlie, you had something you mentioned that was good that they were working on. Do you remember what that was by chance?
It's the, essentially allows you to set up a land bank trust.
That's
I
right.
don't know what the number is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. And
What's
it's
the Senate study bill? I'm sorry, again. What's the Senate study bill on law?
1125 on lost. Yeah. Senate File 174 is on the building code preemption. There are also a couple of bills on civil service hiring. I don't know, Chief, and both chiefs may want to look at that. Senate File 457 and Senate File 454. I want to check that and make sure that it's not any problems we're going to have. So, and it could be a good thing. I'm just saying these are things I picked up here. So if you haven't got a chance, it should be, if it's not in your direct inbox, it might be in your other inbox. So check it. Yeah. All I have.
Thank you, Steve. All right, we'll move on to the mayor's report. A couple items. We have Taylor Hoger here today from the Mayor's Youth Council. Mayor's Youth Council last week gave a presentation to Rotary discussing the projects that they do during the year. Brian mentioned the pacemakers versus peacemakers. My money's on the grannies, though. Maybe maybe we could be cheerleaders. We could get some uniforms.
Yeah, trade.
Heather can teach us a couple of stunts. I think this could be fun. We raise a lot of money.
Workman's comp notifications.
Yeah. You already agreed to run in high heels.
I know that I'm.
Your workman's comp waiting to happen. And then last week I had an opportunity, as well as Justin Keller, Rob Hawkins, Ben and Penny Reeves, Steve Richardson. We attended the reentry stimulation put on by the United Way, and we lived here in Warren County. A couple businesses to point out that were there: TRM, Downey, the Indianola Chamber, Mercy One, and again, we're all looking how we can incorporate these people back into the community once they come, whether that's through jobs or making life a little bit easier by obtaining documents they need. So it was really eye-opening. Sure, Ben went to jail immediately, so it was definitely a really.
We were all in jail for some time.
There was at one point, Ben, Steve, I, and Amanda from the chamber, we were all in there, so it's pretty fun. That is all I have. We will move on to public consideration. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a plat of survey for Chad Daniels on behalf of TS Investments LLC for property located within 2 miles of the city of Indianola.
So moved, Red.
Thank you, thank you. And Charlie.
Yeah, really quick, and just want to give a quick summary on why this one isn't on consent when the other ones were on consent. What we're, I think, going to try to do going forward is, if they're in our priority growth area, make sure that we keep them on a regular agenda to talk about, because we're not actually waiving action on this. But on this one is just north of Hoover, along 110th Avenue. It is splitting off an Aliquot Park, which is about 39 acres, onto a 30-acre parcel for future development. As a single family dwelling, as it's a larger acreage and it is shown in our future land use as being agricultural. It does meet all the standards of the comp plan. So staff recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve this, and the Planning and Zoning Commission is now recommending to the council approval as well. So pretty simple one, but if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Beyond rural water and septic then?
Any questions for Charlie? Jackie?
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Flutter,
Aye.
Beach. Aye. Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland. Aye.
Get on to other business, city managers report from Ben Reeves.
I had just a few things I wanted to get some direction from the council on, and just a couple updates. The council may have seen an email come through about some concerns that residents had with parking of commercial box trucks, vehicles in residential areas. We recognize that this can be impactful to a neighborhood, especially as they're turned on in morning hours, but it can also be impactful on our folks as well who need to park their vehicles. And so there's a lot that needs to be considered, in the direction that we're looking for is to be able to send that to the Planning Commission so that they can chew on it, look at any kind of potential code changes, and bring back a recommendation with the pros and cons to you for your future consideration. You okay if we bring that through the Planning Commission?
Mhm.
Can I make a suggestion? And maybe this would be the obvious, but my dad, we get complaints about my dad. Back when I was a little girl, and their suggestion, this was a tiny little town back in the 60s, but their suggestion was that it be parked elsewhere and drive to it to get in it, which I know is an inconvenience, but I don't know, that might have to be, one of the things considered.
And where?
Right. It would have to be a lot of parking.
Sure. So we can let the Planning Commission, I think that's their specialty to get into those land use issues. And the second one was with regard to a private road request for us to plow a private road. This is the Meadows area over by Casey's East off of 92. And generally speaking, the city does not plow private roads, and that the reason we don't is one, is private property, but two, it's also the potential for damage and liability, especially as you're driving heavy vehicles over trenches that you're not sure about the compactions on. This one's a little bit unique in that our drivers currently pull in and go partly on the private property now to the intersection and then back up and turn around, which is almost more of a risk than driving around it. And the homeowners out there are looking, are willing to not only pay the city to do it, but also to indemnify the city and any damages they would assume the risk of. We're a little leery of this and both our Kiddos Pal and myself have looked into this. I've looked into it in other cities, and the concern is really necessarily their request on private, on plowing in private streets. It's the allowance of private streets in the first place, because inevitably you get into situations after 15, 20 years where you start inheriting those, or HOAs end up falling apart. And the real direction comes from, if you are going to allow the construction of private streets for reasons like gated communities or whatever, you want to make sure that they're built to city standards and they have the proper compactions and the proper construction methods on the asphalt or the concrete, and that the infrastructure is outside of the concrete areas, all those type of things. We are evaluating that and looking at this specific case and maybe looking at maybe a 1-year trial period if we do entertain it, but we wanted to kind of put that out there where this isn't something for you to formally consider, but we're evaluating this, and any kind of agreement we would have would bring back to you in future discussion. But these are the kind of questions that we're being faced with the staff. Is there any history, concerns, issues from the council that we need to evaluate we haven't considered?
You said it was South 8th Court?
Yes, South 8th Street Court. It's,
Casey's over by the high school.
it's like a circle. I didn't even know it was a private road until we had a meeting, Ben and I did, and
I didn't know they had an HOA.
And most people don't know until they've already bought the property. They don't know until closing.
Mhm.
And it's not,
telling us.
They should be told that.
it's a buyer beware situation for sure. Of course,
The HOA responsible for the road then? So let's say they need to repair a section, and would that
correct.
still go forward? If we were to plow it, it would still remain under their control?
If there was any damage, if there's any trenches, anything, that's the type of thing we would require in any kind of agreement, even if it's a trial agreement, that they would assume all responsibility and indemnify the city, and of course, pay for that plowing service as well.
I know my daughter in West Des Moines, they have, the city contracts with a private snow removal company. It's a cul-de-sac.
They provide that now. So they pay for private service to go out there and do that now. Of course, we wouldn't do any driveways or anything like that. But the private just can't get there quick enough to be able to go and do that. And we're already out there. Our trucks are.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of standard. I mean, same for my daughter. There's often isn't cleared, but nobody complains because that's just the way the city of West Des Moines does it, and it is what it is.
I think another concern that they brought up too was from a safety perspective, because it is an older population living there, and if, you know, which Ben and AP said they would do some due diligence and look into it.
Sure, absolutely. We want to make sure that our fire truck crews can get in and take care of our residents.
My only concern with that would be in the long run that again, it goes back to people buying and selling those properties thinking that that is city property and that we are ultimately responsible for those items. I don't think you're ever going to get past that if you can do that. But I think, I don't know if it'd be something that they have to note on their abstracts down the road or whatever the case is, but I think that, you might want to make, I don't know, Doug.
It is already on there.
Yeah, it's on their abstracts. Plus, if you were going to do that agreement, for it.
Yeah.
So it actually would give them a little bit more.
We have to be careful. Whatever we do for one, we have to do for all. And we for sure don't want to get into any parking lot situations or anything like that for private property. This is one that's a little bit unique in that we're already backing up in a plow is pretty risky as well. So we'll flesh that out and bring it back to you for your future consideration. I will be on vacation from March 10th to March 17th. Andy will be acting as the acting city manager during that period of time. And I mentioned that I had shoulder surgery coming up. That'll be on March 27th. So all I have.
Moving forward, I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session with accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51C to discuss strategy with legal counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and where its disclosure would likely to prejudice or disadvantage the government.
Rick?
Thank you. Jackie?
Councilmember Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Leach. Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland. Parker.
Aye.
Session.